In the year 2047, the stars blinked wrong. Dr. Elena Ramirez, Ellie to her friends, was hunched over a microscope in her lab at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena, California, staring at bacterial cultures that could revolutionize space travel. She was 32, sharp as a scalpel, with dark hair tied in a messy ponytail and a tattoo of the double helix on her wrist. Her boyfriend, Captain Jax Harlan, a burly ex-Marine turned security consultant, was supposed to pick her up for date night. Instead, the world ended. Or began, depending on who you asked. The Zorblaxians arrived like a bad Uber from the Andromeda Galaxy. Their scout ship, the Nebula's Whisper, cloaked in quantum foam, hovered over Los Angeles. Captain Zorvith, a tentacled blob of iridescent slime with 6 eyes on stalks, peered through his view screen. His species, the Zorblax, were conquerors of 47 worlds, telepathic, energy-manipulating jellyfish types who viewed solids as inferior. "Look at these primitives," Zorvith gurgled in his native bubble speak, translated via neural implant. "Bipedal carbon bags. They fight with metal slugs and burn fossil fuels. Adorable and dangerous. See their wars? We'll uplift them. Gently." His science officer, Glorp, wobbled in agreement. "Scans show weak biology. Fragile bones, short lifespans prone to fear. They'll cower before our might." They beamed up 50 humans from LA traffic, commuters, baristas, Jack's Midburger. Ellie was zapped from her lab, culture dish in hand. Jax, in his truck, grabbed his concealed Glock before vanishing. Aboard the ship, humans woke in stasis pods, naked and confused. Zorvith addressed them via hologram. "Greetings, Earthlings. We are your saviors. Your planet is quaint. Join our empire or perish in ignorance." Ellie blinked, heart racing. Asterisk aliens? Real ones? Asterisk Jax, 2 pods down, smirked. "Lady, you picked the wrong trucker." The Zorblax laughed, literally bubbled. Humans seemed so puny. No telepathy, no energy shields. Just meat. Dark humor set in. A hipster named Dave puked on a guard's tentacle. "Dude, your ship smells like sushi gone bad." The Whisper warped to Zorblax Prime, a gas giant orbited by crystal stations. Humans were herded into acclimation chambers, fancy cages with force fields. Zorvith's plan: study them, break them, integrate. "They're cowards," he told his crew. "Watch, they flee from shadows." First test: psychological warfare. Holograms of giant spiders. Most humans screamed. Ellie froze, analyzing. Jax punched the hollow, shattering it. Fake bugs. Lame. Biology was the key underestimation. Zorblax were energy beings in suits. Humans were adaptable meat machines. Ellie, the biologist, noticed the ship's air recyclers used biofilters. Her escaped gut bacteria from the lab dish? They mutated in alien air, spreading like a prank virus. "Jax," she whispered during a feeding, slimy nutrient paste, "these guys breathe through pores. Our microbes could clog him." Jax grinned, his blue eyes twinkling. Romantic. Germ warfare date night. He was smitten, had been since NASA mixers. Ellie rolled her eyes, but felt the spark. In chaos, love blooms weird. Dark action kicked in. A Zorblax guard, Squelch, probed Jax's mind telepathically. Jax, PTSD from Afghanistan, flooded it with flashbacks. IED Spuddies dying. Squelch recoiled, tentacles thrashing. Their minds are cesspools of violence. Humans escaped Phase 1. Dave hotwired a door with a stolen multi-tool stashed in his, prison wallet. They bolted, but Zorblax pursued with stun beams. "See? Cowards running." Glort mocked. "Nope. Ambush." Jax tackled Squelch, using his marine training. Human endurance. Zorblax tired in gravity. Humans thrived. Ellie smeared bacteria on a console. Systems glitched. They recaptured, but seeds sown. Primitives are resilient, Zorvith admitted grudgingly. En route to homeworld, Zorblax educated captives. Tech demos, warp drives, neural links, energy weapons. Ellie hacked it literally. Human brains wired for pattern recognition. She interfaced via bioelectricity. Our skin conducts like their suits. Jax, hold my hand. Romantic tension. In a vent hideout, sparks flew. If we die, at least it's together. Jax murmured, kissing her amid laser fire. Dark humor. A human engineer, Mike, quipped while rewiring a panel. Aliens got FTL, but their firewalls suck. It's like Windows 95. Twist on biology. Humans sweated adrenaline, boosting strength. Zorblack saw it as primitive rage. In fights, Jax endured hits that shattered tentacles. Ellie used blood, pricked finger, to interface. Human hemoglobin carried data packets via improvised nanites from ship medbay. They learned. Zorblack's tech ran on bioenergy grids. Human microbiome? Perfect disruptor. Ellie's bacteria evolved, eating alien circuits. Crew stages. Escape pod bay brawl. Humans versus guards. Dark action. Limbs torn, slime splattered. Jax snapped a neck tentacle. For Earth. Zorvith how? They're weak. Glorp. Their bodies adapt. Like viruses. Humans hijacked a shuttle mid-fight. Ellie piloted using biolink. Feel the ship, baby. Crash landed in cargo hold. Now loose on ship. Ship-wide chaos. Alarms blared Zorblaxian opera. Annoying as hell. Human split. Tech team. Ellie, Mike, to bridge. Fighters, Jax, others, to engines. Humor. Dave rode a floating drone like a mechanical bull. Yeehaw, space cowboys. Dark tech dev. Ellie reverse engineered a warp core. Human innovation, duct tape equivalent. Biogel from wound-sealed leaks. We build on failures, she said. Jax's team fought in 0G. Zorblax floated gracefully. Humans used momentum, ricocheting like pinballs. Biology win. Humans held breath longer, endured cold. A guard froze. Jax thawed with body heat. Hug it out, Squidward. Love arc. Jax wounded. Ellie patched him. Don't die on me, Marine. Kiss in blood-smeared corridor. Marry me after this? Deal. Bridge assault. Zorvith waited, energy blasts ready. Primitives. Surrender. Ellie broadcast virus. Human gut flora digitized, crashing shields. Jax charged, Glock, smuggled versus plasma. Bullets? Primitive, but effective in close quarters. Domination. Zorvith pinned. Mercy. You're monsters. Jax laughed. Nah, just pissed off apes. Humans took control. Ship AI bowed to Ellie's biohack. Welcome, meet overlords. Zorvith sulked in brig. Ellie interrogated. Not torture, science. Your empire's knowledge? Share, or we vent you. Dark HFY. Humans could have spaced them. But empathy, human superpower. Zorvith broke. We underestimated. Your biology, chaotic genius. Wars forged you tough. Jax, damn right. Coffee and spite keep us going. Humor, fed them burgers, replicated. Zorvith bubbled ecstasy. This cheese is divine. Friendship bloomed. Glorb joined tutorials. Tech exchange. Humans got FTL schematics, quantum AI, galaxy maps. Ellie's dev. Hybrid tech. Human stem cells plus Zorblack's energy. Immortality serums. Weapons that thought. Romance climax. Wedding on bridge. Zorvith officiated. By the stars. War prep. Earth signaled. Hijack comms. Aliens enemies loomed. The void swarm. Devouring fleets. Humans trained Zorblack's crew. Lesson 1. Never underestimate monkeys with nukes. Final twist. With uni-knowledge, humans forge alliance. Zorblacks became brothers. Your primitives saved us. Ellie to Jax. From abductees to emperors. HFY epilogue. Fleet warped home. Earth boomed. Tech leaps. Dark past fueling bright future. Humor. Dave opened interstellar taco stand. But shadows. More threats. Humanity. Fuck yeah. Ready to rock the cosmos. The nebula's whisper hung in the void between stars. Its hull scarred from the hijack brawl. Ellie Ramirez stood on the bridge. Her hands interfacing directly with the ship's bioneural core. A grotesque fusion of Zorblack's energy veins and human neural tissue she'd grafted from her own spinal fluid. Dark stuff. The process involved slicing open her back under local anesthetic, Jax holding her hand as she screamed through the pain. "Development hurts," she gasped. Now, she could feel the ship's systems like extensions of her nerves. Jax Harlan paced nearby, his marine bulk enhanced with Zorblak's exoskin, tentacle-derived armor that writhed under his commands. The wedding? Forgotten in the grind. Love was now forged in blood and circuits. Zorvath, the former captain, was chained to a console, his slime body desiccated from forced labor. No more burgers. Rations were nutrient sludge laced with truth serums Ellie brewed from alien algae and human adrenaline extracts. Report. Ellie barked, her voice echoing through the hijacked AI. Glorp, the science officer turned reluctant ally, bubbled weakly. The void swarm approaches Zorblak's prime. They are devourers, quantum black holes given form. Each ship's souls, everything. Dark action loomed. The swarm wasn't aliens. It was a plague, born from failed Zorblak's experiments eons ago. Weapons that turned on creators. Jax cracked his knuckles. We gear up. Your tech, our grit. Tech development accelerated in the ship's labs. Once pristine, now gore-smeared from human experiments. Mike, the engineer, lost an arm in a plasma mishap. Ellie regrew it using stem cells harvested from captured Zorblak's drones. Painful, but functional. Hybrid limbs, she noted clinically. Tentacle strength, human dexterity. They reverse-engineered swarm samples from Zorblak's databases. Black hole grenades, mini-singularities in warheads. Dark, test firing vaporized a crew member. Collateral, Jax muttered, stepping over the ash. Zorvath gurgled a warning. You'll doom us all. Humans are too reckless. Ellie leaned in, eyes cold. Reckless got us here. Your empire's knowledge is ours now, downloaded into my brain. Neural uploads. Billions of years of data, causing migraines that felt like skull-splitting wars. She developed countermeasures, bioshields from her gut flora, evolved to filter cosmic radiation and telepathic noise. Training montages turned brutal. Jax drilled the human survivors in zero-G combat, using live ammo. A newbie floated wrong, gutted by a ricocheting shard. Learn or die, Jax growled. Development. Integrated suits with human endurance boosters, adrenaline pumps that turned pain into power but risked hard explosions. En route to Zorblak's prime, ambushes. Swarm scouts, writhing shadows, boarded via quantum rifts. Dark action sequence. Corridors flooded with void tendrils. Jax wrestled one, his exo-armor tearing as it sucked his life force. Ellie, burn it. She unleashed a biovirus. Human-engineered pathogens that disrupted swarm entropy. The tendril imploded, spraying acidic ichor that melted bulkheads. Glorp watched in horror. Your biology, weaponized chaos. Post-battle, intimacy in the medbay. Jax's wounds cauterized with plasma knives. Ellie injected nanites, swarms of her own design, built from Zorblak's crystals and Earth CRISPR tech. This'll make you stronger, she whispered, her hand lingering. Desire amid death. A quick, desperate union on the operating table, blood mixing with sweat. Zorblak's prime orbited like a fractured diamond, stations cracking under swarm assault. The whisper warped in, shields flaring. Engage. Ellie commanded from her neural throne, a chair wired into her spine, veins pulsing with ship energy. Dark space battle. Swarm ships like living black holes, warping reality. Zorblak's fleet crumpled, alliances shattered. Jax led boarding parties via teleport pads, materializing into hell. On an enemy station, tentacled defenders versus human raiders. Jax's team, augmented with void-resistant skin grafts, harvested from fallen swarm fragments. Dark harvesting, corpses pulped for tech. Blades clashed. Energy whips severed limbs. A human screamed as a Zorblak's traitor telepathically boiled his brain. Jax avenged, crushing the skull with enhanced fists. For the hijack, he spat. Ellie on ship, hacking swarm AI. Development breakthrough. Human pattern recognition cracked their code. She uploaded a virus, based on Earth computer viruses, evolved with Zorblak's quantum entanglement. Swarm vessels turned on each other, imploding in chain reactions. But feedback fried her synapses. Nosebleeds turned to brain hemorrhages. Zorvith, unchained for utility, piloted evasive maneuvers. Your kind develops too fast. It's unnatural. Survival. Ellie retorted, wiping blood. Tech dev. She integrated swarm tech, personal black hole generators. Pocket voids for shields, sucking incoming fire. Ground assault on Prime's surface, crystal spires shattering. Dark action peaks. Jackson melee with swarm avatars, colossal shadows that devoured light. His armor cracked. He injected Ellie's serum, muscles bulging grotesquely. Punched through a core, emerging covered in entropy goo that aged his skin decades and seconds. Mike's team deployed nukes. Human primitives upgraded with antimatter warheads. Blasts carved craters, vaporizing millions of Zorblax civilians in crossfire. Moral gray. Collateral for galactic survival. Ellie justified, but nightmares followed. Victory Pyrrhic. Prime saved, but half the population gone. Zorvith mourned, but submitted. Teach us your darkness. Back aboard, reconstruction. Human Zorblax hybrids emerged, voluntary fusions. Glorp merged with a human volunteer. Tentacles gaining bones, minds linking for telepathy boosted by human creativity. Ellie pushed boundaries. Cloned armies from her DNA, accelerated growth in vats. Dark, ethical lines blurred. Clones felt pain, remembered nothing but war. Jax confronted her. We're becoming monsters. For power, she said, but doubt crept. Love strained. Nights of arguments turning to passionate reconciliations. Bodies scarred from battles. Tech evolution. Void engines. Harnessing black holes for FTL jumps that bent time. Development. Ellie aged backward using entropy reversal, but cost souls, sacrificed crew fed to the cores. Intelligence from databases revealed swarm origin. Zorblax's ancient sin. Counter-strike planned. Assault on the Nexus. Swarm heart in a dead galaxy. Fleet assembled. Hijacked ships. Human ingenuity scaling them. Weapons. Bioplasma cannons firing acid-laced projectiles. Shields from adaptive human skin cultures. Departure. Jax kissed Ellie fiercely. If we die, we won't. Humanity develops winners. Warping to the Nexus. A void storm of devoured stars. Assault waves. Swarm endless. Dark action unrelenting. Ships torn asunder. Crews spaced into nothingness. Jax boarded the core vessel, a planet-sized maw. Inside, gravity crushed bones. His hybrid suit held barely. Ellie remote-controlled drones, her mind splintering across the battlefield. Hacked the Nexus AI, uploading human consciousness virus. Memories of Earth wars. Resilience coded as corruption. Chaos. Swarm turned inward, devouring itself. Jax planted the bomb. A singularity core from their own tech, amplified by Zorblax crystals and human nukes. Escape. Tendrils lashed. Glorp sacrificed. Body imploding to shield Jax. For the Alliance, he bubbled. Detonation. Nexus collapsed. Ripple erasing half the fleet. Survivors warped out. Scarred victors. Post-war. Galaxy reshaped. Humans ruled via tech supremacy. Immortal hybrids patrolling stars. Ellie and Jax on a new throne ship. Love enduring amid darkness. Zorvith, fully integrated, advised. Your development saved us, but at what cost? HFY Echo. Primitives no more. Architects of fate. But shadows whispered. New threats brewed in the void. The remnants of the fleet limped back to Zorblax Prime's shattered remnants. Now a forge world under human oversight. Ellie Ramirez, her body a lattice of fused tech and flesh, oversaw the bioforges. Vast chambers where vats bubbled with genetic slurry. Clones gestated in accelerated pods, their growth spurred by stolen swarm entropy reversers. No more fragile humans. These were weapons, birthed in pain and programmed for war. Jax Harlan commanded the ground forces, his form bulked further by void graphs. blackened veins pulsing under skin that absorbed energy blasts. The process had been agony, submersion in Nexus residue, flesh dissolving and reforming over weeks. Pain is development. He grunted to the recruits, echoing Ellie's mantra. Zorvith, his slime body augmented with crystalline implants, monitored the databases. Full knowledge transfer complete. Every Zorblack's secret etched into human neural nets. But cracks showed. Overloads caused seizures, minds fracturing under the weight of cosmic data. First action, purge remnants. Swarm echoes lingered in the crystal spires, parasitic shadows infesting survivors. Jax led the cleanse. Dark descent into the undercrusts, tunnels carved by implosions. Hybrids charged, clones with tentacle arms whipping plasma blades, severing infected Zorblacks who begged in telepathic screams. A shadow swarm ambushed. Tendrils latched onto a clone, unraveling its DNA strand by strand. Jax intervened, his void arm sucking the entity into a personal singularity. The clone exploded in gore, spraying acidic remnants that melted armor. Adapt or dissolve, Jax ordered, harvesting the fallout for new grafts. Ellie in the forge developed neural swarms. Nanite clouds from human white blood cells merged with Zorblack's energy nodes. Injected into troops, they repaired wounds mid-battle, but side effects darkened. Uncontrolled growths, tumors that burst into auxiliary limbs. One soldier's chest split open, birthing a weaponized appendage that turned on allies before self-destructing. Tech leap. Entropy shields planet-wide. Ellie orchestrated, her spine port linked to orbital arrays. Test fire. A captured swarm fragment hurled at the barrier. Annihilated, but feedback scorched her mind, visions of devoured galaxies haunting her sleep. Scans revealed rifts, tears from the Nexus blast, spewing lesser swarms across sectors. Human empire expanded claims, but threats multiplied. Fleet deployment. The Whisper Mark II, rebuilt with hybrid cores. Engines fueled by clone hearts pumping bioplasma. Jax captained assault frigates, warping into rift zones. Dark skirmish on a dead moon. Boarding a rift spewer, a crystalline husk orbiting a black hole. Gravity-warped bones. Hybrids anchored with magnetic graphs. Inside, swarm larvae. Writhing masses that latched and drained life. Combat brutal. Jax's blade carved through, ichor freezing in vacuum leaks. A larva burrowed into a troop's skull, puppeteering the body against them. Forced mercy. Jax decapitated his own man, head exploding in neural feedback. Harvested the larva. Ellie analyzed remotely. Developed counterphage, viruses that induced swarm self-cannibalism. Back at base, upgrades rolled. Zorvith contributed ancient weapons, telepathic amplifiers from pre-Empire wars. Fused with human tech. Mind bombs that broadcast PTSD hallucinations, shattering enemy cohesion. Test on prisoners. Zorblack's dissidents' brains liquefied, leaking from my stalks. Ellie pushed darker. Soul forges. Captured essences from rifts bound into weapons. Ghost blades that phased through armor, erasing existence. Cost. Donors' screams echoed in wielders' minds, driving madness. Jax confronted the toll. We're forging hell. Ellie, eyes hollow from uploads. Hell wins wars. Intelligence pointed to a survivor Nexus shard. A megastructure in uncharted void. Birthing evolved swarms. Assault prep. Legion mustering. Clones numbered thousands, each iterated. Versions with void lungs breathing vacuum. Skin that hardened to diamond under pressure. Warp jump. Reality tour. Ship defenses held, but crew hemorrhaged from dimensional shear. Arrival. Shard loomed, a Dyson sphere of black holes. Dark orbital battle. Frigates dodged event horizons. Firing singularity lances developed from Ellie's entropy math. Hits collapsed enemy vessels into pinpoints. Crew compressed to quantum foam. Warding. Jax's elite pierced the shell. Interior. Gravity labyrinths. Paths that aged travelers centuries in steps. Hybrids countered with time dilators. Graphs stolen from Zorblack's chronotech. fused with human stem reversers. Melee in the core. Evolved swarm queens, colossal entities weaving realities. One ensnared Jax, unraveling his timeline. Memories flashing. Earth battles. Hijack. Losses. He resisted via neural swarm, overloading the queen with human rage data. Ellie hacked from ship, bioquantum link. Her blood piped into the core via drone. Infected the shard. Pathogens spreading entropy reversal, collapsing internal structures. Explosions rippled. Hybrids evacuated as the sphere imploded, harvesting fragments mid-flight. Gains. Core crystals, pure knowledge nodes. Absorbed, unlocking multiversal schematics. Development spike. Rift gates for instant travel, but unstable. Test openings devoured ship's hull. Return victorious, empire solidified. Zorblak's worlds subjugated fully. Populations hybrid integrated or culled. Ellie designed enforcer drones, swarm minds and clone bodies, loyal via DNA locks. Tech ascension, personal augmentations. Jax gained entropy sight, eyes seeing probability paths, predicting attacks. Ellie, body phase becoming semi-corporeal for stealth ops. But incursions escalated. Rifts birthed new horrors. Alternate humans from devoured timelines, twisted invaders seeking revenge. Defense, planet crackers, weapons that shattered worlds into ammunition. Dark test, obliterated a rebel moon, billions atoms repurposed. Zorvith warned. This development loops to extinction. Ellie silenced him with a graft. Mind probe extracting final secrets. Galaxy bowed, but Void whispered larger threats. Cosmic elders awakening. Hybrids evolved further. Immortal legions, developing in perpetual war. Jax and Ellie at the pinnacle. Rulers of dark tech, actions echoing through stars. Development never ceased, action eternal. Humanity's Gambit, from primitives to devourers. The Empire's core worlds fortified with entropy webs, orbital grids of interlaced singularities that warped incoming threats into oblivion. Ellie Ramirez, her form now a translucent husk laced with phase-shifting nanites, monitored the rift from a command nexus embedded in Zorblak's Prime's molten crust. The nanites, evolved from harvested swarm larvae and human neural stem cells, allowed her to dissipate and reform at will, but each shift eroded her cellular integrity, leaving phantom pains that no graph could silence. Scans lit up. A mega-rift tore open in Sector 7, spewing alternate reality invaders, twisted human variants from timelines where the swarm had consumed Earth first. These echoes were abominations, fleshed armored with bone-plated exoskeletons, wielding timeline blades that age targets to dust on contact. Jax Harlan led the intercept fleet, his body augmented with probability cores. Crystals implanted in his cortex that calculated infinite outcomes, guiding his strikes with precognitive precision. The cost: constant migraines from paradox overloads, visions of his own deaths looping endlessly. Dark orbital clash. The Whisper Mark III, a behemoth forged from shard remnants, unleashed void lances, beams that punched holes in reality, sucking echo ships into non-existence. Debris fields ignited, plasma fires raging in vacuum as hulls crumpled. Jax teleported aboard an Echo Vanguard, his entropy sight revealing weak points in their warped armor. Melee erupted in the enemy's guts, corridors twisted by dimensional folds, gravity inverting mid-step. An Echo charged, blade slicing through a hybrid trooper, flesh aging rapidly, crumbling to geriatric ash in seconds. Jax countered, his void arm absorbing the timeline energy, redirecting it into a feedback loop that unraveled the attacker from within. Guts spilled in zero-G globules, flash freezing into crimson crystals. Development surge. Ellie remote-linked, uploading adaptive protocols. From the battle data, she iterated the nanites, infusing them with echo bone marrow extracts, granting troops temporal resistance. Mid-fight injections via drone swarms. Soldiers convulsed as bones densified, but one overloaded, imploding into a singularity that devoured his squad. Acceptable refinement. Ellie logged coldly, harvesting the anomaly for shield upgrades. The rift sealed with a core bomb. A compressed Nexus fragment detonated at the breach, collapsing the tear, but radiating entropy waves that sterilized 3 nearby moons, their surfaces vitrified to glass. In the core, doubt. Were they saviors or the new swarm? Victorious salvage. Echo Rex towed to the bioforges. Ellie dissected captives in vivo, living subjects strapped to slabs, neural probes extracting genetic secrets while phase blades carved samples. Dark vivisection. Screams echoed telepathically, Zorblak's assistants recoiling as human variants begged in distorted English. Tech breakthrough. Timeline graphs. Echo DNA fused with clone vats, producing chronolegions, troops that phase through attacks by skipping microseconds. Development process brutal. Immersion tanks where subjects endured accelerated aging simulations, emerging wrinkled husks if flawed, or enhanced predators if successful. Jax tested the first batch on a rebel holdout, a Zorblak's faction hoarding pre-Empire tech. Ground assault. Chronolegions blinked into fortifications, blades materializing inside defenses. Blood sprayed in arterial arcs as throats slit before alarms triggered. Jax waded through, his probability core predicting ambushes. He crushed a defender's skull with a graft-enhanced fist, brain matter splattering his visor. Counter-development. Rebels deployed psi-disruptors, ancient artifacts that shatter minds. A legionary's head exploded from feedback. Ellie countered shipside, engineering neural dampeners from her own spinal tissue, harvested via auto-surgery, pain lancing as drones excise sections. Post-battle integration. Psi-tech merged with human tech, birthing mind lances, weapons that projected hallucinations of personal hells, driving enemies to suicide. Test firing on Echo prisoners. Bodies convulsed, self-inflicted wounds tearing flesh in frenzied claws. Empire expanded. Conquered sectors strip mined for rare entropics. Worlds cracked open like eggs. Populations repurposed as biofuel. Liquefied in vats to power rift gates. Deeper databases unlocked multiversal engines. Devices to weaponize time itself. Ellie's Nexus birthed the Paradox Core. A station-sized reactor that folded timelines, allowing strikes across probabilities. Dark Trial. Targeted an emerging rift cluster. Activation sent chrono waves rippling. Echo fleets aged to rust mid-warp, crews fossilizing in stasis pods. But backlash. Temporal echoes rebounded, assaulting the Empire's past. Jax defended a timeline breach on Prime. Invaders from aborted futures. Versions of himself, twisted by failed grafts, wielding obsolete weapons. Combat visceral. He fought his doppelgangers, blades clashing in sparks. One pierced his side, wound refusing to heal as time looped the injury. Probability core overloaded. He vaporized the Echo with a void suck, but fragments embedded, accelerating his cellular decay. Ellie intervened. Phase shifted into the core, manually stabilizing with blood infusions. Her essence siphoned into the machinery, body withering as energy drained. Development. Core stabilized, upgraded to selective erasure, deleting enemy timelines wholesale. Cost mounted. Crew mutations from exposure. Limbs phasing uncontrollably, merging with bulkheads in agonized fusions. Cullings followed. Defective hybrids euthanized, parts recycled into next iterations. Scouts probed elder voids, regions where universes collided, birthing godlike entities of pure entropy. Fleet assaulted a nexus point, harvesting elder cores, orbs of infinite density. Space inferno. Entities manifested as living black holes, tendrils of event horizons, lashing ships. The Mark III shielded with paradox barriers, but hulls peeled away layer by layer, crews exposed to spaghettification, bodies stretched to atomic threads, in screams silenced by vacuum. Jax's boarding, teleported into an elder's maw, gravity-crushing graphs. He deployed micro-singularities, pocket bombs developed from Boneforge tech, imploding sections. Dark Harvest mid-chaos, probed the core, extracting essence that burned through his suit, flesh boiling off in strips. Ellie orchestrated extraction, linked fleets funneled energy, fusing elder matter with clone matrices. Breakthrough, singularity drives, engines that consumed realities for power, propelling ships beyond light. Empire's pinnacle, weapons that erase concepts, beams nullifying existence in targets. Test on a star. Soul imploded quietly. Planets flash frozen in eternal night. Threats evolved endlessly. Elders birthing metaswarms, rifts spawning conceptual horrors. Ellie and Jax, demigods of flesh and code, iterated without cease. Bodies rebuilt daily, tech ascending to abstraction, minds uploaded to quantum foams, actions spanning galaxies. Dark cycle. Conquer, harvest, mutate, destroy. Humanity's development. An abyss staring back, forging apocalypse into dominion. Yet the void hungered more. The Empire's rift gates hummed with harvested elder essence, portals that punched through conceptual barriers, doorways not to places, but to ideas made manifest. Ellie Ramirez existed now as a distributed consciousness, her original body a desiccated husk preserved in stasis, neural patterns replicated across a network of singularity nodes. Phase shifting had evolved into conceptual dissolution. She could embody infiltration itself, slipping into enemy systems as an intangible virus of intent. Jax Harlan's form was a weaponized silhouette, probability cores expanded to manipulate causality chains. Implants allowed him to rewrite local realities mid-combat, but each alteration frayed the fabric, spawning micro-rifts that birthed anomalies. Ghost echoes of undone actions haunting his periphery. Scans detected conceptual devourers, entities from meta-layers, beings that consumed not matter, but abstractions, time, space, identity. They manifested as voids in perception, erasing sensors before contact. Assault on the Veil Nebula, a region where realities overlapped like frayed pages. The fleet warped in via conceptual drives, engines that navigated by defining arrival as inevitable. Dark engagement. Devourers latched onto ships, nullifying cohesion. Hulls disintegrated into incoherent atoms, crews unraveling into screams of forgotten names. Jax led the Vanguard teleport, materializing in the entity's core, a non-space where up was hunger. His causality blade, a weapon forged from paradox engine remnants, slashed at the abstraction, severing connection tendrils. An ally hybrid phased out of existence mid-strike, identity devoured. Jax harvested the void residue, grafting it to his core for abstraction shields. Ellie infiltrated digitally. Her consciousness embodied corruption, spreading through the devourer like a logical paradox. It convulsed, spawning subentities that manifested as crew nightmares, personal horrors given form. One tore into Jax, manifesting as his unhealed wounds from the hijack, ripping open old scars and psychic hemorrhage. Development response. From the assault, Ellie abstracted new tech, null blades that erased concepts from targets. Mid-battle iteration. Drones injected with the residue, evolving to counter-devour, absorbing enemy abstractions and repurposing them. A drone overloaded, becoming a roaming erasure field that wiped a frigate clean. Lesson logged, parameters refined. The Devourer imploded under dual assault, its essence compressed into orbs. Harvest, conceptual cores, fuse into Empire arsenals for weapons that deleted resistance in foes, turning armies passive before strikes. Salvaged cores fed the identity forges, vast neural matrices on cracked worlds, where clone minds were overwritten with devoured identities. Dark process, prisoners strapped into linkage grids, psyches stripped layer by layer, data siphoned for augmentation. Zorblak's remnants provided base telepathy, amplified by human neural density. Jax oversaw purges, rebel echoes, survivors from alternate timelines. Rounded up. Forges activated. Identities dissolved in acid baths of code. Screams broadcasting across links. One subject, a twisted Ellie variant, begged through the grid. Jax terminated manually, crushing the pod with causality force, essence absorbed for his own stability. Tech evolution. Psi-abominations. Hybrid soldiers implanted with multiple identities, switching personas for adaptive combat. Development trials brutal. Subjects fractured, bodies mutating to match personas. Limbs elongating into echo forms, skins sloughing in identity shifts. Failures culled, viscera recycled into bioslurry for vats. Fleet deployment against a devourer cluster. Abominations boarded, identities infiltrating enemy abstractions. Dark side battles. Minds clashing in non-space, egos eroded. Jax joined a link, his probability site unraveling devourer logic, erasing hunger temporarily, allowing blades to carve cores. Blood equivalent sprayed. Conceptual ichor that manifested as liquid regret, corroding armor and will. Ellie distributed. Embodied domination across the battlenet, forcing submissions. Breakthrough. Identity bombs. Projectiles that implanted Empire loyalty, turning enemies into thralls. Test on captives. Brains rewired. Self-mutilation and failed integrations. Survivors marching as drones. Empire consolidated. Forged worlds produced endless legions. Resources funneled from devoured sectors. Planets conceptually nullified, stripped to quantum dust. Causality engines scaled, station-sized constructs that stormed alternate probabilities, harvesting viable timelines for tech. Ellie orchestrated from her node web, patterns predicting storms. Backlashes where rewritten realities rebelled. Storm hunt in the fractured expanse. Engines activated, pulling enemy strongholds into preferred causalities. Dark rewrite. A devourer nexus shifted, its defenses undone before existence, but anomalies spawned. Paradox beasts, creatures of undone events rampaging through fleets. Jax countered groundside. On a shifting battlefield where gravity flipped causally, beasts lunged, forms of might-have-beens, claws that erased histories. His blade rewrote strikes, severing beast timelines mid-lunge. A pack overwhelmed a legion. Bodies phased into non-events, leaving voids that sucked in allies. Development amid chaos. Anomaly harvests yielded causality graphs. Implants letting troops exist in multiple states. Injections via combat drones. Soldiers superimposed, attacking from probabilities. Overloads cause collapses, flesh compressing into dense orbs, crushed under self-weight. Ellie refined. Engines upgraded with identity stabilizers, preventing beast spawns. Counterstorm. Flung at a meta-entity, unraveling its core causality. Implosion birthing a stable rift for controlled harvesting. Gains. Probability weapons. Guns firing bullets that hit in all timelines, shredding targets across realities. Empire's reach extended. Storms weaponized for conquest. Probes reached elder abstractions. You are entities embodying universal laws, slumbering in conceptual voids. Assault fleets converged, engines tuned to invade abstractions directly. Invasion of a law nexus, ships embodied intrusion, piercing veils. Entities awakened, forms of pure math, equations that calculated destructions. Dark calculus wars, fleets solved for survival, failures equated to erasure. Ships vanishing in logical proofs. Jax's incursion, teleported into an entity's theorem, blade, disrupting axioms. Allies dissolved in paradoxes. He grafted solutions mid-fight, bodies swelling with infused logic. Ellie fused. Consciousness became the harvest, absorbing laws into nodes. Development, law cores, devices bending physics at will, gravity guns that enforced new constants. Battle climax. Nexus cracked, laws rewritten to favor Empire. Harvest immense, but entity's death throws stormed causalities galaxy-wide. Tech apex. fusion of all harvests, bodies as abstractions, weapons as laws. Ellie and Jax transcended, patterns waging eternal war against escalating voids. Development cycled darker, devouring multiverses, iterating into the abyss itself. Dominion absolute, hunger infinite. The empire spanned abstractions now. Realities folded into nodal clusters where concepts like empire and conquest were enforced as immutable laws. Ellie Ramirez's distributed self permeated the causality storms, her patterns woven into the fabric of harvested timelines. No longer bound to flesh, she orchestrated from quantum foams, iterating defenses against the escalating meta-threats. The latest anomaly, the Omega Rift, a tear where all devoured entities converged, swarm remnants, echo variants, devourers, elder abstractions, fusing into a singular hyperentity that embodied annihilation across multiverses. Jax Harlan, his form of causality storm incarnate, commanded the Vanguard Armada. Probability cores had evolved into Omega engines, devices that dictated outcomes across infinite branches. His strikes preempted existence itself, but the toll accumulated. Fractured causalities spawned shadow selves, doppelgangers that rebelled in silent wars within his core. The rift loomed in the null expanse, a wound bleeding realities. Scans, abstracted probes of pure inquiry, revealed the entity's structure, layers of entropy stacked upon conceptual devourers, guarded by law-warped sentinels. Activation of the convergence engines, fleet-wide fusion of all prior tech, singularity drives merged with paradox cores, identity forges powering abstraction shields. Dark multiversal assault, ships phased into the rift, realities colliding in cataclysmic overlaps. Sentinels manifested as living theorems, equations that solve for fleet destruction, hulls calculating into oblivion, crews reduced to mathematical errors. Jax teleported through layers, his Omega blade rewriting Sentinel axioms mid-equation. A Sentinel latched, unraveling his timeline. Shadow cells erupted from his form, clashing in internal melee, blades carving through self-flesh equivalents, causality blood spraying as non-Euclidean ichor. Ellie infiltrated the conceptual strata, embodied disruption, her patterns spreading like a virus through the entity's logic gates. It countered with annihilation waves, erasing intrusion from existence, forcing her to reform from backup nodes scattered across timelines. Development in the breach. Harvested Sentinel code mid-fight, iterating Omega shields that enforced persistence on allies. Drones injected with the upgrades convulsed in reformations, some stabilizing, others collapsing into event horizons that swallowed squadrons. Core penetration. Jax's Legion breached the hyperentity's nucleus, a vortex of fused horrors. Swarms writhed within devourer voids, echoes wielding elder laws. Combat abstracted to purity, strikes that deleted probabilities, wounds that erased histories. A fused guardian, swarm queen grafted to conceptual core, ensnared Jax, devouring his causality chains. He overloaded his engine, imploding sections of a nucleus. Allies vaporized in the backlash, their essences harvested automatically for reinforcements. Ellie converged nodes. Full fusion assault, patterns overwhelming the entity's annihilation directive. It fractured, layers peeling in explosive abstractions, realities birthing and dying in instants. Deeper into the nucleus, the hyperentity's heart pulsed with Omega entropy, a singularity of all prior threats compressed into a self-devouring loop. Jax's form stabilized via emergency graphs, causality threads rewoven from fallen shadow cells, pain manifesting as multiversal screams echoing in his core. Dark breach action. Legionaries embodied tech extremes. Chronophase soldiers skipping entity attacks. Identity-switched abominations mimicking enemy forms to infiltrate defenses. A wave of fused echo devourers surged. Blades aging troops to conceptual dust. Jax countered with law guns, enforcing mortality reversal on the wave. Enemies de-aging into non-sentient embryos, crushed underfoot in viscous implosions. Ellie distributed an iterative virus. Code harvested from all battles, evolved to induce self-collapse. It spread through the heart, forcing the entity to iterate against itself. Swarm devouring devourer layers, elders nullifying echoes. Internal wars raged. Visible as rift storms within, tendrils lashing out to drag fleet elements into the fray. Development peak amid chaos. Real-time harvesting. Jax's blade siphoned core essence, feeding data to Ellie's nodes. Breakthrough, Omega Fusion Drive. A weapon system that merged all tech into a singular strike, capable of annihilating multiversal clusters. Assembly brutal. Required sacrifice of Legion cores. Soldiers linked and liquefied into energy conduits, their patterns screaming as fused into the drive's matrix. Entity retaliation. Annihilation pulse erased half the fleet, ships conceptually unmade, crews forgotten even in death logs. Jax shielded via probability overwrite, but fractures propagated. His form split into parallel versions, each fighting autonomous battles before reintegrating in bloody mergers. The heart exposed. Hyperentity contracted, attempting total convergence, sucking remaining realities into its maw. Ellie embodied the counter. Full node convergence into a metaform. Patterns enforcing separation on the entity, peeling fused layers apart for targeted strikes. Jax charged the epicenter, Omega Blade primed with fusion drive energy. Guardians swarmed, ultimate abominations of all prior foes. Visceral clash, blade carved through entropy flesh, ichor that dissolved causality on contact. A guardian pierced him, unraveling his engine. He redirected the wound, imploding the attacker from within, gore equivalent exploding in abstract shards that shredded nearby legions. Ellie linked directly. Consciousness to entity core, waging code war in pure data streams. Virus iterated endlessly, adapting to counters. Each failure birthing refinements. Cost paid and node deletions that echoed as phantom losses across her web. Final activation, Omega Strike. Jax plunged the blade, channeling Ellie's virus. The entity convulsed, multiverses trembling. Layers imploded chain reaction style, devouring themselves in entropy cascades. Backlash immense. Rift storms engulfed the expanse. Fleet remnants warped to atomic debris. Harvest climax. As it collapsed, essence streamed into Empire receivers. Ultimate download of all cosmic data. Threats knowledge absorb wholesale. The Omega Rift sealed in a final singularity, birthed from the implosion, contracting to a pinpoint that erased the expanse, leaving vacuum scars across realities. Survivors, minimal. Jax's form reformed from causality remnants, scarred with eternal fractures. Ellie's nodes consolidated into a singular nexus, the distributed self unified in apotheosis. All tech iterations fused into her pattern. Dark aftermath. No cheers, only calculation. Harvested essence yielded the apex core, device embodying total dominion, capable of rewriting universal laws at whim. Development complete. Weapons that prevented threats pre-existence. Shields enforcing invincibility across timelines. Empire remade. From ashes, new forges rose. Planets conceptually birthed from the core. Legions iterated to perfection. No more incursions. The void silenced. Threats preempted in conceptual cribs. Jax integrated as enforcer. His blade the Empire's edge. Ellie, the core mind, oversaw eternal iteration. Not war, but absolute control. Humanity's gambit ended in transcendence. Primitives no longer, but the abyss itself, devouring all potentials, developing in infinite isolation. The cycle broken, dominion unchallenged. In the silence, power echoed eternally.